Thank you very much for joining us on Business Now. I am Samuel Okata. The Federation Account Allocation Committee says it shares 907.05 billion naira among 3 tiers of government for June 2023. The figure represents a marginal increase of 120.89 billion naira compared to the 786.16 billion naira shared for May 2023. And it is the highest this year and the second increase following a constant decline since January. FAC disclosed this in a communique issued at the end of its latest meeting in Abuja on Thursday, chaired by the new Accountant General of the Federation, Dr. Oluwatoyin Madin. The total amount includes gross statutory revenue, value-added tax, and electronic money transfer levies and exchange rate difference revenue. The federal government received 345.56 billion naira, the state received 295.95 billion naira, and the local government council got 218.06 billion naira, while the oil-producing state received 47.48 billion naira as derivation. The National Economic Council, comprising 36 state governors and Vice President Kashim Shettima, has concluded a plan for state government to implement cash transfer program using state-generated social registers. It said state-generated social registers would better reflect the number of vulnerable Nigerians to be reached with such cash transfer or palliative scheme. This came on the heels of the plan by the government to roll out its intervention measures to cushion the effect of the hardship facing Nigerians following the removal of the controversial fuel subsidy. At its last meeting, the NEC had set up a subcommittee which was tasked with coming up with plans to reduce the harsh economic conditions trailing the removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of exchange rates. The governor of Ogun State, Dakpo Abiodun, gave the indication while speaking with State House correspondents after the NEC meeting chaired by the Vice President of the Asurok Villa, Abuja, on Thursday. President Bola Tinubu has approved the establishment of Infrastructure Support Fund for 36 states of the Federation as part of measures to cushion the effect of the petrol subsidy removal on the people. This development was contained in a separate statement from the State House on Thursday by the Special Advisor to the President on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Dele Alake. According to the statement, the fund will enable the states to intervene and invest in the critical areas of transportation, agriculture, health, education, power, and water resources. The federal government recorded a revenue shortfall of 13.33 billion naira from gas flaring penalties issued against oil and gas firms in January and February 2023. Earlier reports had indicated that the federal government will impose $49 million, which is approximately 22 billion naira fine on oil and gas firms operating onshore for flaring 24 billion standard cubic feet of gas valued at about 40 billion naira between January and February 2023. This was according to recent gas flare data by the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, which noted that the companies operating onshore would pay the penalties for violating the gas flaring rules. The agency said companies operating onshore flared 24.5 billion standard cubic feet of gas valued at about $85.8 million with $49 million penalty payment payable. However, data from the quarterly statistical bulletin for the first quarter of 2023 by the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that the federal government earned only 4.6 billion naira in January and 4.07 billion naira in February. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has commenced an extensive probe into the recent incident involving water contamination in the fuel tanks of certain aircraft. The NCAA said the move was to prevent future occurrences of such safety breaches. The Director General of Agency, Captain Musa Nuhu, stated that the agency was intensifying its investigation to determine the root cause of the issue. Captain Nuhu stated this while speaking at a meeting with domestic and international operators, aviation fuel suppliers, and the Nigerian Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority in Abuja on Thursday. According to Nuhu, the issue of fuel contamination was beyond the purview of the aviation ecosystem, hence engagement with the regulators of the downstream sector. All right, meanwhile, the House of Representatives has announced its intention to launch an investigation into the recurring problem of aviation fuel contamination in the country. The resolution was reached after the House adopted a motion of urgent public importance moved by Tunji Olawiyi at a plenary in Abuja on Thursday. In his motion, he said the contamination of the main fuel tanks of Boeing 737-300 aircraft belonging to Max Air B737-300 led to the auxiliary power unit shutdown on July 7th at the Yola airport. He said Max Air had reportedly confirmed it got the contaminated fuel from certain disclosed aviation refueling outlets. This, he said, eventually led to the unfortunate incident and grounding of its 5N MHM aircraft by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority.